Paranormal Karen, she's so spooky. Paranormal Karen, funny too. Paranormal Karen, she's so spooky. Oh, we didn't mention she's funny too. Yeah, cha-cha-cha.
Hey everybody, welcome to the bonus episode of Paranormal Karen. So I think I have a couple coming out. I'll try and, I know we're all home or everything's slow or whatever, and we could all use the distraction, which by the way, if you could use the distraction, go to Dry Bar Comedy and plug in my special. And even if you don't think it's funny, let it play because I'll get residuals from it. And that's great. But right now I'm going to put out this. I think I have Diet coming on. Diet did an incredible channeling about what's going on with Corona. But today I wanted to jump right on this because I know that there's a lot of conspiracy theories and stuff out there. And you heard me and Jessa talking about some of the things that could happen. And I stumbled upon this one. Obviously, I don't need to say this to you guys. I'm not a doctor. I'm not even a good speller, never mind a doctor. But I found this, my friend Jen sent me this tape. And you all know how I feel about 5G and the episode I did on the crystal Shungite, with Derek Condit about taking that frequency out. And I actually got to meet Derek. He's going to be on the show today. I got to meet him. I got to go to his store in Washington, which was amazing. And I taped an episode with him, which I think is out the end of April. But I saw this YouTube video, and it really took me about this doctor talking about the coronavirus and 5G. So I'm going to play the audio from this YouTube video, and then we're going to bring in Derek, and I want to hear more stuff from him about what he thinks about this. I had a short conversation with him, and I sent him the video, and he was like, "Oh, I just shared that yesterday," and I was like, "Okay, we got to talk." So, obviously, do what if it's stay in time, stay in. If you do your thing. This is just information I'm bringing you. Here we go. Listen to this 10-minute tape.
Now, I have 10 minutes. I wasn't sure I was going to get to this stage, but I can't help but say something about this whole coronavirus thing.
Oh, I got to stop. This is Dr. Thomas Cowan, Cowan. And that's literally the tape. Dr. Thomas Cowan, Cowan MD. I tried to get him on and he couldn't come on. So I told them I would give out his name. He has an email that I will give to you after. I think it's called Fourfold, but we want to give out his email address too, in case you like what you hear here. His email is called, here it comes. Fourfold. Hang on. I'll get it after the tape. Here you go.
You want me to?
Yes.
So, again, when you know Steiner, you have the answers to the test, but you have to then figure out the details. In 1918, after the biggest pandemic, the Spanish flu pandemic of 1918, Steiner was asked, what was this all about? And he said, well, viruses are simply excretions of a toxic cell. Viruses are pieces of DNA or RNA with a few other proteins. They bud out from the cell. They happen when the cell is poisoned. They are not the cause of anything. And the first way I would encourage you to think about this is if you were a famous dolphin doctor, right? And you have been studying dolphins in the Arctic Circle for hundreds of years, or at least a long time. And the dolphins were fine. And then they call you up, Fred, all the dolphins or a lot of the dolphins are dying in the Arctic Circle. Can you come and investigate? Right? And you have one question to ask. So, show of hands. How many of you would say, I want to investigate a dolphin to see the genetic makeup of that dolphin? Nobody, because that's stupid. How many of you would say, I want to see if this dolphin and that dolphin has a virus because it might be contagious and that's why all these dolphins are getting sick? That fellow. How many of you would say, excuse my French here, somebody put some shit in the water here? Like Exxon Valdez? Anybody? Everybody. Because that's what happened. And the cells get poisoned. They try to purify themselves by excreting debris, which we call viruses. If you go to the current theory of viruses called exosomes, and the latest head of the NIH giving a talk on the complexity of viruses, you will see this is perfectly in line with the current thinking on what a virus really is. I had a dramatic example of this when I was growing up. Right outside our house, there was a wetlands, and they were full of frogs, and the frogs kept me up at night, so I taped the windows, and in the spring they made a big racket. And then over time, the frogs were all gone. How many thinks the frogs had a genetic disease? How many thinks the frogs had a virus? How many thinks somebody put DDT into the water? That's what happened. Diseases are poisoning. It's one of the reasons why vaccines, so let me skip that for a minute. So what happened in 1918? There was a huge, in every pandemic in the last 150 years, there was a quantum leap in the electrification of the earth. In 1918, late fall of 1917, there was the introduction of radio waves around the world. Whenever you expose any biological system to a new electromagnetic field, you poison it, you kill some, and the rest go into a kind of suspended animation so that, interestingly, they live a little bit longer and sicker. And then starts in World War II with the next pandemic, with the introduction of radar equipment all over the earth, blanketing the entire earth in radar fields. First time humans have ever been exposed to that. In 1968, there was the Hong Kong flu, and it was the first time the earth has a protective layer in the Van Allen belt, which essentially integrates the cosmic fields from the sun and the earth, from the moon and Jupiter, etc., integrates that and essentially distributes that to the living beings of the earth. And we put satellites emitting radioactive frequencies in the Van Allen belt. Within 6 months, we had a new viral pandemic. Why viral? Because the people are poisoned, they excrete toxins, they look like viruses. People think it's a flu epidemic. In the 1918 epidemic, the Boston Health Department decided to investigate the contagiousness of this. So they, believe it or not, took hundreds of people with the flu and they sucked the snot out of their nose and injected it into the healthy people who didn't have the flu. And not one time could they make the next person sick. They did this over and over again, and they were not able to demonstrate contagion. They even did it with horses who apparently got the Spanish flu, and they put bags over their head, and the horses sneezed in the bag, and they put the bag over the next horse, and not one horse got sick. You can read about this in a book called The Invisible Rainbow by Arthur Furstenberg, who chronicles all the steps in the electrification of the earth and how within 6 months there was a new flu pandemic all over the world. And when you hear the normal explanations, how did it go from Kansas to South Africa in 2 weeks? So the entire world got the symptoms at the same time, in spite of the fact that the mode of transportation was horseback and boats, and there's no explanation for it. They just say, we don't know how that happened. But when you think about it, with these radio waves and other frequencies that some of you have in your pocket and on your wrist, you can send a signal to Japan and it arrives instantaneously. So any of you who don't believe, there is an electromagnetic field that communicates globally within seconds just is not paying attention to this. And I will only finish by pointing out that there has been a dramatic and quantum leap in the last 6 months with the electrification of the Earth. And I'm sure a lot of you know what that is. It's called 5G, where they now have 20,000 radiation emitting satellites, just like the radiation emitting thing in your pocket and on your wrist and that you use all the time. That is not compatible with health. I'm sorry to say it. It's not compatible with health. That is a water destructuring device. And for any of you who say, yeah, well, we're not electrical beings, we're just physical matter, then don't bother doing an EKG or an EEG or a nerve conduction test, because we are electrical beings and the chemicals are only the byproduct of those electrical impulses. And I'll finish with anybody want to make one guess as to where the first completely blanketed 5G city in the world was. Exactly. So when you start thinking about this, we are in an existential crisis here, folks, the likes of which humankind has never seen. And I don't want to go all Old Testament prophet on you, but this is something that is unprecedented. The putting of 100,000 satellites in the very blanket of the Earth. And by the way, as I was going to say earlier, this actually has something to do with the vaccine question. And this got brought home to me because about a year ago or so, I had a patient who came in who was totally fine, a surfer and all, and then he works as an electrician putting in Wi-Fi systems for very wealthy people. Electricians have a very high mortality rate, but he was fine. And then he breaks his arm and he gets a metal plate put in his arm. 3 months later, he couldn't get out of bed and was total, heart irregularities, just total collapse.
Oh, I'm sorry, folks. Hang on. Here we go.
The susceptibility has to do with how much metal you have in your body, as well as the quality of the water in your cells. So if you start injecting aluminum in people, they become receptors for absorbing increased electromagnetic fields. And that is a perfect storm for the kind of deterioration of the species, which is what we're now experiencing. And I'm just going to finish with one more thing, which I like to, is a quote from Rudolf Steiner. And by the way, this was around 1917. So it was a different time. In times when there were no electrical currents, when the air was not swarming with electrical influences, we're talking 1917, it was easier to be human. For this reason, in order to be human at all today, it is necessary to expend much stronger spiritual capacities than was necessary a century ago. So I'll just leave you with whatever you can do to increase your spiritual capacities, because it's really damn hard to be a human being these days. So thanks for listening.
Sorry about that, folks. I am taping this off of my phone and something came in and I flipped the screen. So sorry about me yelling. I'm sorry in the middle of that. Hey, everybody. Welcome Derek Condit back. Derek is our Shungite guy. Derek, I got it right this time.
You did.
Thank you so much for coming on. The actual podcast that I taped with you before this one will be on in April, but I was so taken by this video that we just played for the people, and you have seen it too, and it really spoke to you, didn't it?
Oh, you can definitely say that, Karen. Yeah, it had a whole lot of truth to it, you could say, and I'm glad that somebody and not that, we needed, or you and I at least needed to hear it from a medical doctor, but it's good to hear for others from that perspective. And he had fantastic insights on more of what's happening right now.
Yeah. And you know what was interesting? One of the first things that made me think of you was in there when he said something about these are water destructing devices. And I think he meant the 5G or the whatever, the water destructing. And I thought about how, you are absolutely right about, we have here in our house, we have the Shungite in Courage's water, which, by the way, Courage has a lot of medical issues. Since we started doing that, I have to say he looks amazing. I have it in my water, and it's interesting how you described Shungite as like giving us living water. Can you tell us that again?
Oh, sure. Yeah, and exactly. And that's great that Courage is doing better because it makes sense. I mean, of course, our physiological bodies, our 3D bodies are constantly replacing themselves to different degrees and different times, depending on the portion of the body or the organ or whatnot. And when you know that, and if you give your body access to these, what's called living water molecules, then you're building your body with living energy as well. So, of course, you're going to be a whole lot healthier, and not just your energy body, physical body, but your emotional body. So we have lots of bodies. And the beauty of Shungite is one of those things that will actually structure the water. So it makes it what's called living water or structured water. There's lots of different terms for it, but scientists know all about it. And what it does is pretty much takes the molecules of the water and aligns them back to where they should be. The reason I'm saying that is because most often our water has gone through several pumps or pipes during the treatment process, and or, of course, chemicals being added to it, chlorines and fluorides. So during this process, if you can imagine water molecules, what they do is when they go through 45-degree turns and pumps and let's just say harmful energies around these devices as well, meaning the pumps, what it does is molecularly kind of shake up the particles so it still looks like water, but when you drink it, your body's not identifying it as living water. So you end up basically excreting about 90% of what you drink, and then you'll absorb maybe 10%. But if you add something like Shungite to your water, which does restructure the water and line up those molecules, so you can think of it as basically putting the molecule puzzle pieces back together so your body can identify it as water. So if you have the Shungite in your water, and it's instantaneous, by the way, you can just drop straight Shungite nuggets in your water and drink it. Your body will now identify it as water, and you'll absorb about 90% and excrete 10%. So you flop those numbers on their head there just by adding the Shungite. And it's a phenomenal thing for not just humans, but plants, animals. Everybody can benefit from living water.
Yeah. And you know what else? So after I talk to you, I always have my earrings in. I never take out my earrings, which is why I specifically made them with the beads from you, because then it's always in. All right. So I don't have to think about it. I leave my necklaces. I grab those and put them on in my bracelets. But today, after seeing this tape, I grabbed everything and I was like, this makes so much sense to me. The other thing was I got the little dog tag, little Shungite bead thing. It's on Courage's collar. And, all of my life is lived through what my animal communicator tells me. And after I put it on, I said, can you ask Courage if there's a difference? And he said, I can breathe better. So it did something.
It absolutely does something. And basically what she's describing here is, a little pet pendant made of Shungite, and we can all wear personal pendants. Well, when you realize that Shungite works on water on the molecular level, well, we're all water beings as well. We're made of water molecules, and so is the environment around us, not to mention, the environment our auric or energy field is in. So because all these environments, they're not distinctly different, they all interact, it matters even if the molecules of water that make up us and our environment are structured. And that's why you want Shungite on your body for, say, personal protection, or on your devices, say your electronics. Because as Dr. Cowan was talking about in the video, well, the whole 5G tie-in is because of the microwave frequency that 5G works within, and that's a destructuring of water. It's called a sine wave, and it actually is, I won't get too much into science here, but it actually affects the environment. I don't know if it's a plant, animal, human, or just the air around us on the water molecular level. So it can actually heat up the water molecules in us, around us, again, in plants, animals. So
And in
basically
the
our
earth.
environment.
And in the
And
earth.
the earth completely. Absolutely. All of it.
Wow. And actually, what you're talking about right now was what I wanted to get into, because I remember one of the first things that I heard about my friend Jen that actually goes to your store, and she's like, "I'm going to take all his classes," and I'm like, "I wish I could go with you." She was saying there's the waves, the what you said, the microwaves on 4G. They weren't better, but there was the frequency was further out, or it was almost like the cells got a little break in between. Correct me if I'm wrong, where it would go like do do do, whereas on 5G it's like do 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 do, like there's no break. Does that make any sense? What I'm trying to say there?
Yeah, it does, and that's what they. And then the early stages of 4G was called 4G intensification, so it'd be the precursor to 5G. But yeah, what you're kind of getting at there is the edge, we'll call it, on the sine wave. So the invisible frequency, or you can think kind of like whips in the air that are around us all the time. It actually has a square on it, so an actual edge, so which is harmful. So just think, instead of hitting maybe a softer surface, even physically or energetically, there's a smoothness in it, not a direct, think harm or edge to it. And it's the same with frequency. So when you get to these square waves, it's a automatic and in really fast succession, these pulses, and then they very quickly fall off. So which makes, and when you're looking at something like an oscilloscope, which was something I was trained on years ago as a commercial deep sea diver, you would see certain waves when I was testing different metals for things. Basically, we put some sound through it, listen back, and see these waves, and they would be, think soft would be one way of describing it, with a smooth edge if you're looking visually. And that's not the case with the 5G. So it actually has those edges to them, and as you were mentioning, in really fast succession. So it's, in essence, just being hammered on your energy body with sharp edges continually, and that's not a good thing.
Wow. Now, and I know we did all this before, but I like it in context with the tape that people just heard. So how does the frequency of Shungite soften or get rid of that?
Sure. Shungite actually has an effect, and it's been shown scientifically. Actually, remove excess electrons. There's lots of ways of describing this. Some people would call it overages, excess heavy energies, tension, stress, and it's all physics and metaphysics, because of course there's no difference there. We just like to pretend there is sometimes.
Right.
But there really isn't, for those that are aware. So let me think. I'm kind of losing my track here because I'm getting on a couple subjects in my head.
Okay, so the Shungite.
Oh, Shungite. Yeah, I'm sorry about that.
That's okay. I sort of kamikaze interviewed you here, so I'm sure I was like, "Are you there?"
No, that's okay. That's funny. But I also get a couple training thoughts going there. But the Shungite, what it does, will actually remove that excess. So it's the same thing as grounding or earthing. So if you were to hug a tree or go barefoot in your garden or the beach, there's actually, on the physics level, an electron exchange there. You'd be removing or releasing excess electrons through your feet. Hence the whole have your shoes and socks off sort of thing. Or if you're hugging a tree, which is a great idea, you'd actually have electrons leaving your hands, the negative ions. There's different ways of looking at it. But what it will do is having the Shungite in your auric field, which is what happens when you're wearing it in bracelet form or pendant form, and I do both, or you can have it in your pocket, but it's in your energy field at that time. So it's affecting the energy flow, your aura body. The aura, you can see it as the orgone field around you, as scientists call it. So it makes that energy move smoother. It has the same effect on motors. So we've actually made magnets with Shungite that you put on an engine, and there's less orgone resistance on the motor, so you have better mileage. And it's kind of, I hate to compare it that way, kind of the same with us. If you have less orgone resistance, chi, probably there's energy around us, then our energy bodies will heal themselves better and faster and properly. So it's all about that invisible energy around us, and Shungite removes the excess or heavy portions of that so that we heal ourselves, is really what's happening there.
Wow. And I have the, you had a gummy one. You had one where the Shungite was in something rubber. I sleep on that. I have, I have it on all four corners of my bed, underneath my bed. And also I use the powder to, make a little paint that I put on everything. So it's very interesting. And this is a weird segue that I guess, isn't even, we're not doctors, but so the Shungite should actually help us stay healed enough that this virus, I know it's not probably a perfect answer, but it's you said to me in the next interview that is going to play in April when this just started, you said, remember virus is a frequency. And that stuck with me so much. Is that sort of what I'm overlapping here? Is that the virus is the frequency and we're kind of, for lack of a better term, overriding the frequency with our Shungite?
Yeah, that's interesting. You picked up on a couple things there. So that was funny. I was kind of laughing when I muted when he said the Shungite gummy. What she's talking about here is we call it Shungite rubber, and they're little. And what it is we take the Shungite powder with pure silver particles, and I'm bringing this up for a reason, and we mix it in a non-silicone, non-toxic rubber. So they look like, think the little bottom of muffin tins, and that's actually what they're made in. It's a convenient shape. Yeah, so there's a couple inches long, pretty thin, and we make them different sizes. But what that is, and it's a frequency device. So you have the Shungite powder and the silver, and there's a reason medical doctors make colloidal silver and put silver in all kinds of creams and different devices. It ties in silver, that is, has a frequency that ties into the physical body, your 3D body. So that's why you would want that around you. Even a long time ago when there were different diseases and things, often the people that tended to have the silver vessels to drink from did a little bit better for those reasons. Silver kills bacteria and viruses. And in the etheric realms, think energies. So when you tie in the Shungite and the silver to yourself, what you're going to do is restore your own energies and you're going to heal yourself is what's really going to happen. So in essence, with the Shungite rubber around you, or I make pendants called cosmic silver Shungite that are actually tumbled in hundreds and hundreds of pure silver bars, little tiny ones. And it actually transmits the silver and migrates it into the Shungite. So if these items are around your physical body, it heals your aura and you heal yourself is really what's going on. So that these viruses and other, we'll just be kind of vague here, issues that are out there harming us, don't affect you as much, and basically you stay in peak health. So it's really not that the Shungite's healing you, but it's removing the excess so you heal yourself.
Wow. And I have I had an acupuncturist tell me this once that, those exfoliating gloves, I wear those in the shower, which folks, it's really fun to wear gloves naked in the shower. Just a little piece of information. But, and she said, if you do that and you sort of scrub that top layer of skin, you force your etheric aura to push forward and really push off disease and stuff. I don't know if you ever heard that. She was an acupuncturist, but I always do that. And I always think it does help. But I have to say, I was at your store. Your store is fantastic. In fact, Courage did not want to leave your store. We had to go to our show and Courage kept dragging me back to try and get into your store. And when I was there, you also gave me an energy healing pouch that has all these things in it. So I want you to tell people a couple of things. They need to go by your store. And listen, folks, his prices are great. This is just one of these things. I feel so much better having this on me. Tell the folks some of the things you have, like this energy pouch.
Sure. And what she's talking about and I carry one every single day, and so does every one of my family members for a reason. What they are, and size doesn't matter on this, so I want to make that clear because it's frequency. So it's not a physical volume thing. So when you think frequency and not sound, you don't need a big 80s boombox on your shoulder to hear it. You can get away with, a little iPod or something like that. So what I'm saying is that what we have are little energy healing pouches. They're about 2 inches in size. And I actually put one of these little silver bars that I buy online. They're certified silver. You can think of them, they're about the size of a silver bar a Barbie doll would hold. So little guys there, about 1/4 of an inch long.
It's very cute.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah, they're little. And then what you do to mix it up, the other ingredients, because you're making a device here, and everybody can do this at home, and you don't have to have one of these silver bars. You can have a silver earring that you bought or gifted, or another piece of silver, but just make sure it's pure silver. And then you're going to want to add pink Himalayan salt, white sage, and then a small piece of shungite. And what you'll do with these little ingredients here, these 4 different ingredients, the silver, the salt, the shungite, and the sage, what it does is the salt, of course, it's a crystalline structure, grabs energies, and that's physics as well. Of course, metaphysics, same difference, jokingly again. So that grabs energies, and then sage actually clears energies as well. And because we're talking frequency, you don't have to touch these things. So sage actually kills bacteria and viruses as well. And then we already talked about silver adding a healing frequency to the physical body, and shungite removing excess. So what you have here is a little recipe for healing that everybody can make at home. And there's again, size doesn't matter, and they don't need to touch. So when we sell these little pouches, again, I think we call them healing pouches. They're in the salt in its own little baggie, the sage is in its own, and you can just shove these little pouches, or if you make your own, keep them separate. But because frequency, again, they don't need to touch. The frequency is still there. So if you have these little pouches in your aura or energy field, it's pretty much a similar thing as wearing shungite and or silver in your environment. So you're going to add those frequencies to your aura body, and then you're going to heal yourself. So that's a really easy thing everybody can do. I do it myself, and my whole family does. And it's great for these times now.
Yeah, and I have the powder, I have the honey, I have the soap. Folks, go online to mysticalwares.com, correct?
No, it'd be mysticalwares.net.
.net. And this is going to be in the show notes, folks. And you have so many things. And I have mailed, shungite to so many people, and I have it on my Wi-Fi router, and I have it around my bed. And like you said, I made a little thing of nail polish with the powder, and I put it on all my devices. I also have this sticker. So, let everybody know where they can find everything. Mysticwares.net.
Sure. It's actually, so it's www.mysticalwares.net, MYSTICAL, and then it's WARES.
So I got it wrong with it right in front of me, Derek.
That's why I spelled it out. Yeah, I should have thought that a little bit more before I did the name. But I also want to mention, Karen, because you mentioned the classes. Well, starting today, I posted it on the mysticalwares.net website that I will be providing all the classes for free, live broadcast on Facebook in the coming weeks, because this is a community. Oh, yeah. No, we're a community. We're a family. We need to share the love and be together. And if that means I'm restricted to Facebook, then, hey, we're going to get together on Facebook, and it's all free. So if anybody's interested, on the Mystical Wares group on Facebook, they can watch that, and I'll post the updates there. And we're going to do as much as we can and stick together.
Okay, great. Now, a couple things I'm going to find the group, folks. I'm also going to ask you guys if you can sign up for my email list. I was never pushing anything this way, and I thought I got to get it all in one place. If you go to karenrontowski.com or paranormalkaren.com, there's a little button you can click to subscribe. And because I forgot, there's so many ways I'm not reaching people. And also, my tarot class should be coming out soon, but I will make sure all this is in the next email, but also this will all be in the show notes. But Derek, every time I talk to you, I feel better.
So I feel the same way when I talk to you. That's fantastic.
That's great. And is there a Paranormal Karen coupon for folks?
Yeah, there is. So actually, I'm so glad you brought that up, because at mysticalwares.net, if you put in the coupon or promo code and so the whole store is online as well. So we have the Mystical Wares stores in Mount Vernon, Washington, but the whole thing's online now too. So you can get your polished rocks and gems and sage on there. And if you use coupon code Paranormal Karen, you're going to get 10% off your entire order. And that'll be for lifetime, by the way. So we're going to keep that forever.
Oh my God.
Yep. It's never going to go away.
Derek, you are fantastic. Thank you so much for taking the time for this little bonus episode. And man, you can see me in your class.
Oh, fantastic. I'm looking forward to it. We're going to have a lot of fun. And there's a lot of interesting classes like exploring Sasquatch, enhancing your intuition, personal healing. All kinds of good ones. Yep.
And you know what, folks? Look forward to his episode, which I believe is the last week of April. You have no idea how fascinating Derek is. I know you're right now. You're like, he couldn't be more fascinating than this. You just wait. So thanks so much, Derek. And you guys sign up for my email at Karen Rontowski or paranormalkaren.com. Thanks to Mike Flynn at Uno Rising Media. And if you can leave me a review or stars wherever you can, that would be great. Thanks, everybody, and I'll be back with more bonus episodes while we're all in lockdown.